All right, so today's lesson, very easy. I swear it's common sense, other than the vocabulary part of it. You'll have to learn some new words, okay? So, this chair doesn't work there. All right, vertical angles. You will need to know these words, this terminology, you will need to know it all year. Very, very easy. And we use it so often, I think it's hard to forget it, okay? So the first term, vertical angles. In your notes, which this is I printed this out so you can keep it in your notes. Just draw two intersecting lines, kind of like this, okay? Just any old way you want. Doesn't really matter. Anytime you have two intersecting lines, you've just created two pairs of vertical angles, okay? The ones that are across from each other. Doesn't this guy look like it's the same measure as this guy? Well, they are the same, and they are called vertical, okay? Maybe try to remember the word vertical because it's kind of like one V touching another V. I don't know, okay? So if I told you that the measure of this angle right here was perhaps 40 degrees, then this angle that's vertical to it is also 40 degrees, okay? That's vertical angles. Okay, memorize it right now. Put it in the brain and keep it there. Vertical angles. All right, now, this leads me to the next one. Do you guys already happen to know that if there's a straight line, two angles that form a straight line have to add up to how many degrees? We kind of mentioned it. 180. Okay, so these two angles form a straight line, so these two have to add up to 180. Which means that this angle right here, the obtuse one, what would its measure be? 140, okay? So this is 140. Notice, by the way, that there was a straight line. If I cover this up, there was also a straight line this way. So I could have used this angle also to say that that was 140, okay? And now, again, we have vertical angles. These two are vertical as well. So if this is 140, then this is also 140. Okay, does that make sense so far? And then also, if I do this as a human and I go all the way around, what do you call that? 360. The total number of degrees in the whole circle, if I go one angle, plus another angle, plus another angle, plus another angle, if all the angles together make a complete circle like a piece of pie, then that's 360 degrees. Okay? All right, so linear pair, we kind of already said it. Draw a line. Linear means line. Draw an angle coming off of that line any old way you want, maybe this. Two angles that form a line are called a linear pair, okay? So if I said this angle right here, if that angle was 30 degrees, then this angle automatically, because they form a line, this angle would have to be 150, okay? A linear pair forms a line, okay? They are also supplementary. Do you remember that supplementary means two angles that add up to 180? Okay? The difference is supplementary angles don't have to be adjacent to each other. A linear pair, they make a line. You could have supplementary angles that are supplementary without being a linear pair if they weren't touching each other. So let's say I had this angle. Let's say that's 110 degrees, okay? And then I have randomly somewhere else a 70-degree angle. Do those two angles add up to 180? Yeah, so they are currently supplementary because they add up to 180. But are they a linear pair? No. They would be a linear pair if they were also adjacent. Remember that word where they share a side, okay? So supplementary angles that are also adjacent will form a linear pair. Easy enough? Okay, last complementary angles. Do you remember what they have to add up to? Complementary angles, 90 degrees. They add up to 90 degrees. Okay, so complementary angles, if I had one angle that was 50 degrees, then the complement to that, you don't have to write this down yet, but the complement to that would be 40 degrees. Now, if they are drawn adjacent, then they'll make a right angle. So draw a right angle. Denote that it's a right angle, putting this little box here in the corner. So if that's 90 degrees, now put another angle in there somehow, I don't care how, maybe like that. These two angles together are complementary. Okay, they have to add up to 90. So if I said that this was 20 degrees, then the other angle would have to be 70 degrees. Now they're only going to form a right angle if they are also adjacent, sharing a side. Okay, I can still have a 70-degree angle and a 20-degree angle. These two would still be complementary, they just don't form a right angle together unless they're adjacent. All right, easy. So basically what we have today, if they form a right angle, they add up to 90. If they form a line, they add up to 180. And if they are vertical across from each other, then they are congruent or equal. Okay, got all of that in your brains? All right, now I forever could never remember. I knew that there was complementary and I knew supplementary. And I knew one was 90 and one was 180. But I could never remember which one was which. So, to help you out, complementary, I can make a 9 out of the C. Supplementary, I can make an 8 out of the S. 180. I know it's a stretch, but whatever, it works for me. This I can make a 9 out of, this I can make an 8 out of. One of them's 90, one of them's 180. All right, or you could remember that C is before S in the number line. This one's 90 and this one's 180. All right, so these examples today, I think they're all going to be really easy as long as you remember vertical angles across from each other. If they form a line, 180. Okay? So let's go. High speed. Break out a calculator if you think you'll need it, but I tried to keep the numbers really simple so that we could high speed fly through these. Okay, I actually don't think this should be difficult at all, but slow down when we get to the algebra. So if you think I'm putting you on the spot, then grab a calculator because I want to hear all of you answer it loud and proud. Here we go. Ready? On your mark. Get set. All right, first, naming them. I got to point to them because it depends on which one I point to as to how you would name it. If I use this 50, then this one is, what's the measure of it, first of all? 50. What would you call those two angles, everyone? Vertical. If these two are 50, cover up half. These two form a straight line, or these two form a straight line. So the other missing angle would be 130, because if they form a line, they are called, you guys are slow. If they form a line, they are called supplementary, but also linear pair. If they form a line, linear pair. Okay? And then if this one's 130, then vertical to that, this one is also 130. Okay, do number 2 on your own. Go, 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 go. I don't know if I'm still recording. Let's hope for the best. All right, so number 1 we already did. 50, 50, 130, 130. Okay, this one is, yell it out, 100. That means the other two are 80. Picture not drawn to scale. I don't care how it looks. I care what the math says. These two, they form a line, so they are called linear pair. That means they have to add up to 180, which means this guy right here is 118. Yay. All right. This one, the line is right here. They form a linear pair, so they have to add up to 180. What'd you get for this guy in here? 59. Does it look like 59 degrees? No, the picture is not drawn to scale. Number 5, these two across from each other are both 140. They are called vertical. The other two are also vertical, and they're going to both be 40. You're all hanging in there? Okay, Okay, the last one, there's a line, linear pair, so subtract from 180, and you should have gotten, is it 52? Okay, the last two, very common in geometry. You're going to do the geometry and use a little algebra to get it done, but the first step is always geometry. So on these two, what I'd like you to do first, even though you may have started without me already, what I would like you to do first is please just write the equation that you think you would use to start these two problems. Okay? I want you, if you can, on your own, I want you to write the equation that you would use to solve this, and write the equation you would use to solve this, and then don't do anything else, because if the first step is wrong, you're done anyway. And guess if you have to. Go with your gut. You have the knowledge, I swear you do. You should write something for sure. Don't you dare leave it blank. I swear in this class, everything is like you're either two things are equal or two things are going to add up to something else over and over and over again. So just make sure you know the geometry relationship going on and write an equation that says that. For each of these we have two angles. Two angles. Figure out by their picture and what you learned in the lesson, are they equal or do they add up to something? Okay, in this one, do these two angles even look equal? No, they're not equal, so don't say they're equal. What is true, if they form a linear pair, then these two angles have to add up to 180. So you should have hopefully said this junk plus this junk equals 180. Okay, so this junk, 3x plus 4, plus this junk equals 180. The first step is the geometry knowledge. From there, we'll do algebra. Do you understand the first step? Okay, we'll come back to solving. Over here, however, these two are vertical. They're across from each other. How are they related? They are equal. This junk equals this junk. And that is something that we're going to do in geometry all year. Knowing the relationship gives you the first step, and then you do some algebra to solve. Okay, you guys, you understand the first step? Okay, from here, these x's are on the same side, so you're going to combine like terms. On this one, the x's are on opposite sides, so you're going to do the opposite. Solve for x, and then take your value of x and plug it back in to make sure it checks. Okay, I'm going to give you some time to do all of that all the way to the end, and then we'll go over it. Okay, so the last part. Combine like terms, because they're on the same side of the equal sign, you get 5x plus 5. Subtract 5 on both sides. You don't have to show it, you can just do it, and you get 5x equals 175. Divide by 5, and x equaled, what'd you guys get? 35. And remember, in geometry, that's often the answer, but often not the answer. This one wasn't really clear what they wanted, but if you looked at the very top, it said find the measure of all angles. So that means I need to find the angles. Okay? So take my value of x and plug it in right here, and plug it in right here, and that would be the smart thing to do anyway so that I can check my work. So this angle would be 3 times 35 plus 4. What'd you get for that?
190.
Say what?
109.
109? 109? Okay. 109 degrees. Notice the 35 is not a degree. The 35 is a placeholder value of x. Okay, plugging in the 35 here, you get 71. And is that what should have happened? Is that a correct relationship for these two angles? Yes, they add up to 180 because they form a line. Okay? Good? All right, this one, the x's are on opposite sides, so do the opposite. Either subtract 3x or subtract 2x, but get in the habit of moving the x's first. It saves you a lot of heartache. Subtract 2x on both sides. You don't have to show it, you can just do it. You could also subtract the 4 at the same time. So I have 1x plus 4 equals 40. Subtract 4, you don't have to show it, you can just do it. And you get that x is 36. Again, that's not a degree. I still need to take that 36 and plug it in right here, okay? And right here. So, if x is 36 right here, 2 times 36, 72, plus 40, 112? Did you guys get 112? Did I do that right? Okay. Now, what should I get for the other angle? They're vertical, so I darn well better get 112 for that one also. Okay, I heard a 68 out there. Plugging in the 36, help me out. It's 3 times 36 plus 4. What'd you get? 112. Okay, it's very nice that in geometry you can check your work and it makes sense. Okay, ask me now if you have any questions, clarifying, anything like that. Okay, the only thing you can really mess up here, if your first equation is wrong, then you're going to get junk answers. So make sure you look at the picture and ask yourself, are they equal? And that's when they're across from each other. Or do they add up to something like 180? They could also add up to 90. All right, good luck with your assignment. Speak